Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
It's a new year and a new season of Below the Line. And for the fifth year running, we're going to spend the next month talking about the Oscars. Each episode, I'll host a panel of film industry professionals to discuss the nominees in their category of expertise. We're kicking things off with sound, and I've got two returning guests. Steve Morrow, you've been a production sound mixer for more than 30 years, and your credits include La La Land, A Star is Born, and Ford versus Ferrari. You're also, we should note up front, a nominee this year for your work on Maestro. Congratulations and welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. I promise I won't be too biased. It's gonna be it'll be a little bit biased, but just ignore it if you're listening. Just saying.
What to balance you out, we do have another guest. Don Sylvester, you've been a sound editor for over 30 years, with credits including Walk the Line, Ford versus Ferrari, and Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. You're not nominated this year. I hope that doesn't end up being a sore point.
Well,
but you did win an Oscar for your work on Ford versus Ferrari.
all right, I'll be good.
He won and I lost. I mean, it's fine. Same movie.
And there's hope for you.
The last time sound nominations were split. Don won and Steve didn't.
Sorry.
Listeners,
Okay,
we're not going to spend more time on that, but if you want to dig into it, learn more about what these guys are bringing to the discussion, go to imdb.com and search for Below the Line. You can find this episode with a list of guests, and a click will take you straight to these guys' credits. All right, let's get started. First, I'm just going to read off the films, the 5 nominated for sound in 2023. The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. We're going to discuss them in that order, and spoilers are possible, so consider this awarding. Also, as a side note, we like to recognize our below-the-line compatriots by name, even if it means I'm occasionally mispronouncing some of them. Let's start off with The Creator, and the nominated team is Ian Voight, Eric Adal, Ethan Van Der Ren, Tom Ozanik, and Dean Zupanik. I made a mess of those, I think.
No, last two are good.
Most of them were pretty good.
Yeah, not at all.
All right, well, let's dive into it, guys. The Creator, how'd it sound?
I mean, I watched the movie. I'm very excited to see that movie because it just, the storyline fascinated me. And I mean, it's a movie it sounds incredible. If you think about them making that movie, it's a low budget sci-fi movie. It's a $90 million sci-fi movie that looks like a $200 million movie, right? So it's not technically low budget, but they shot it with with these prosumer cameras that are $5,000 a piece, and I thought they did a wonderful job in creating a world that doesn't exist. With all the AI and the robots living their own lives. And for me, I just thought, it just showcased, I mean, it's tough because you can look at it and go, well, a lot of Marvel movies and a lot of Star Wars, and they all kind of sound this big, grandiose sound. But, if you really listen and really paying attention, you can hear all the little, movement of their earpiece, their brains, I guess, the AI brains. And I think there's a lot of care given in the film to what it, ultimately what it sounded like. Don, you probably have a better idea of what, nitpicky things you do.
Well, again, I have to start out by saying comparing different movies' soundtracks is like saying, what's your favorite color? This is a category that I would compare maybe Mission Impossible and The Creator sort of go into the same genre kind of category, guns and machines and things like that.
Right.
Not Maestro, not Oppenheimer, not Zone of Interest. So to compare these is crazy. It's just crazy. But then I've just said it, okay? I've said it. The Creator is, I think, a great example of a great soundtrack. I mean, the great thing about what The Creator does, which I like, is, there's machines and there's guns and there's all kinds of new sounding things that you've never heard before, like, huge tanks and robots.
Lasers from space.
Sure, yeah, the good stuff. But there's also a lot of quiet. And there's the give and the take, the black and the white, the quiet and the loud. And for me, that really shows a master at work. Somebody that knows you can't have 100%, 100%. You have to have time to release and time to project. So I give it high marks for that. Certainly for that. I thought some of the creative sound effects were really splendid. I mean, just great. Just they tickle your ears. I'm not always that impressed with sort of the kind of movies that this is, because as you say, there's a Marvel sort of a template that people do a lot of, and that's great, that's good, and it takes a lot of talent. I'm not denying that, but when they have the ability to give and take like this one does, I just really appreciate it, and the care given to the detail. I mean, this is not just sound effects either. In the dialogue, there's all kinds of voices, all kinds of futzing going on. There's all kinds of radio signals and, you know, transistor radios and speakers and things like that. I just think it's really great. So on both sides of the board, I think they did a great job.
Absolutely.
Period. End of sentence.
So, yeah, for something completely different, next up is Maestro. And the nominated team is, as earlier mentioned, our own Steve Morrow, Richard King, Jason Ruder, and two gentlemen from before, Tom Ozanik and Dean Zupancic.
I didn't see it. Was I supposed to watch this? I thought it was
Unbelievable.
I thought it was just a given. So I didn't.
I will send you the record. You can just listen to it if you want.
Okay, I saw it. And man, what an accomplishment. Gee, what an accomplishment. The thing is that I don't know, Steve, you should talk about this, but the thing is, the way you recorded that music was just out of this world. What a demand. How many times have you don't ever do an orchestra, do you?
I've never, before this movie, I've never done an orchestra. It was the conversation from Bradley was after Star is Born, which we did all the vocals live, a little bit of the music, but mostly all the vocals live. He said, let's step it up a notch. Let's do Leonard Bernstein. Anything you see on camera is going to be live. I love the sound. I love the way it feels natural. Let's just do it that way. And Jason Ruder and I, who had done also A Star is Born, kind of went, holy shit, he wants to do the orchestra live. How are we going to do that? And that was, a 3-year in the making process of just trying to figure out what the best way to do it, while filming, because it's not like filming is ultra quiet. There's people moving, there's dollies, there's cameras. So we attacked it, and pretty much everything you see on camera that is live sung or live played, we recorded it to give that feel.
So how many rigs did you have, and how many mics did you have?
Well, so for Ely Cathedral, which is the big orchestrated piece, that was 61 microphones, and it was my rig recording it, but we also had 2 Pro Tools systems next to me as well. That was, one was my Pro Tools system, one was Jason's, more or less just as backups, just to be able to have it guaranteed, because if we messed up a recording, then that was a disaster. And also originally, and I have to be clear that Netflix basically said, okay, you're going to blow your entire music budget while shooting the movie. There's no money left for post, music wise. So if you don't get it, then that's it. And they had somebody with a stopwatch behind us for every time we'd hit record until we cut, so that they knew how much they're paying the orchestra to play every time. And the London Symphony Orchestra had limits on how long they could play together, because the new way orchestras are playing, there's shields around them to protect their hearing, and there's space between them to protect their hearing. And back in the 70s and 80s, they didn't do that. They just crammed them all together. So we crammed them all together. So everybody had a little sound sensor under their seat. It was a whole thing, but we were able to get it faster, I think, than the LSO was expecting. I think they thought, oh, they're going to be playing for 10 hours straight for 2 days in a row. Where in reality, we never really shot that way ever on that movie. We would shoot, I think we shot the first day maybe an hour's worth, and the second day it was 2 takes, and that was it. So the movie was tough. You know, it was a hard it was a hard movie, but we kind of went into it going, okay, well, you know, there's no option in failing, so let's just cover it the best we can, and then let's make sure that the audience feels like they're in the middle of that orchestra.
Yeah. The interesting thing is there's a lot of people that have the opinion that production sound, post sound are different. And they think that well, none of this stuff is going to stay. We're just going to fix it in post, as the saying goes.
Right.
And then there's other people that also say, well, and the music, that's not sound, that's music.
Right.
And this really laughs in the face of those distinctions because it's really everything at once. It's like sound, music, talking, sound effects. It's all now.
Yeah.
It's all live. It's all here. And to say that, I mean, it reminds me of kind of a film shot in the 40s where they weren't going to do any post. They're just going to hang a microphone and let's get what we can get. And, if you walk off mic,
Yeah.
no one's going to fix that. So to me, this is like old school, very old school.
It's definitely we approached it in that way. It's like, okay, we're going to record everything because you hate doing ADR 6 months later. It's just never the same. But to also make it, we're going to do it in an Altman-esque way where we're going to mic everybody. There's going to be 25 radio mics on people in parties when there's only 5 actors and the rest of them are background people. But we're going to put mics everywhere and then just let everybody talk in the party and everybody editorial and post will throw those voices in the different speakers around the theater to make you feel like you're in the middle of that party. But that's also, that takes a strong, director going, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. Let's try it. If we fail, we fail, but let's try it because I think that that's going to be really interesting and a really interesting way to hear the movie. So we were given quite a bit of latitude, and we were checking it along the way, with editorial, but yeah, we had a lot of fun just kind of throwing it out there, and our first day of filming was almost the last scene of the movie where he's conducting the student orchestra, and that was the first day that we did live orchestra start and stop, and that was the day that we also got to ask/teach the camera department, hey, you can't just move orchestra seats out of the way and put a dolly track in. You kind of have to put the camera, 15 feet further back and put it on the jib arm if you want to go over the orchestra, because the orchestra has to stay where they are or else we have to move these mics. Oh, well, let's move the mics. Okay, well, that'll be 2.5 hours. So everybody out. Oh, wait, no, we'll just move the dolly back. So then that was the first day, and then but we've worked together before, the cinematography and I. And so it was nice. It was a nice matching, nice pairing.
Well, it's probably good to start with the student orchestra before the Philharmonic being the first day.
Yeah.
Working out some of the coordination bugs.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm not going to predict the winner here, but you should get an award for this at least.
Thank you.
If it's not the winner, it should get like an award too, because what was done, I don't think people really appreciate it. I mean, they don't deconstruct it to see how it was put together. It doesn't look like a different thing to people when they see the final movie. But to know that it's all real and live, to me, is like, that's the secret sauce. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think I've gotten a lot more comments on this movie than previous nominations. And I think that people, it is hard for them to describe what they're feeling, but they're stating like, this just hit me in some way that I've never been hit before. And what is that? And that's what we're explaining to people. But I think that there is an appreciation. I don't think they know the nuances, but that's okay. That's not part of the magic. Just enjoy and be enveloped. That's the goal.
But Steve, it seems you're making the case that not just the case on how the music came into the film, but also that affects the performances, and that affects a lot of the other things that are getting attention in the film because it was done live rather than sort of constructed.
Yeah, I think when you can get out of the way of acting, when you're in a situation where you have actors overlapping, and traditionally, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, you'd say, okay, just don't overlap each other on your coverage. We'll do it in the editing room, and that way we have it nice and clean. I think that the actors are like, okay, that hurts, Whereas this, we're just let's just record it in a way that you don't have to do that. Just have a conversation any way you want, and we'll record it. And if you want all these extras talking because you want it to feel more like a party, speak up over the noise. Let's do it. Let's just do that. But you have to speak up over the noise. And if there's a technical issue, I'll let you know. Otherwise, just the crew will get out of your way, and then the acting can come through, and the story can come through.
Now, you probably have ruined those extras for everybody else. I mean, I can't imagine.
I've ruined
my
everything.
next set,
Yeah.
and those extras are just talking like, "Well, we got to talk on Maestro. What are you talking about?" All my work, years of training on extras not talking, and you just undid it in one movie, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, I did do a movie a few years ago. It was a basketball movie, and we did the same thing. We mic'd every single player, every single coach, every single ref, and then we put a surround mic in the crowd, and a couple different around the stadium. And I said, just play the game. And the AD is like, well, no, we'll have them all mime. I was like, no, just have them go crazy. If there's a good shot, they should, He's like, really? I said, oh yeah, go for it. And it worked wonderfully. But yeah, I ruined that AD. He was like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore.
All right. Well, we will see what comes of it. Steve, thanks for the insights on how that came together.
Sorry for all the bias talk. All right, moving on.
It's side of it that we wouldn't have known otherwise. I appreciate hearing about it. The third movie on our list is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. The nominated team is Chris Monroe, James H. Mather, Chris Burden, and Mark Taylor.
I mean, what a movie, right? I mean, that is action-packed. They have some big sequences. I mean, the train. We did a sound bake-off for the Academy, and they played this train scene where the train goes off the tracks and he's jumping from car to car to car, and it's just an impactful, like straight, 15 minutes of action and sound and drama and dramatic noise. I mean, it's just it's packed full of that really fun energy, because when you have Tom Cruise doing his stunts and everybody's bouncing around, I mean, it's I sit there and I'm watching it, I'm like, how'd they do it? How did they make this feel that tense? But you do it through a lot of sound effects and a lot of detail to what's about to happen to these train cars, and I think you do that throughout the whole movie. The dialogue, Chris Monroe did a great job recording the dialogue. It's a beautiful sounding movie, and I know there's tons of stunt work and stunt cars, and yeah, I mean, it's a movie you get lost in just watching it and having fun.
Well, I think, didn't Mission Impossible? No, what won last year? It was the Tom Cruise production, right? That won last year
for sound.
I don't remember.
Oh, Top Gun, right?
Top Gun. Okay, all right. My point being, I've worked with Tom. He's really, really, really critical of good sound, and it shows. This is an example of another Tom Cruise production, Tom Cruise jam, as we say. And I think he did a great job. I think that everybody associated with did a really, really sterling job. Again, it's one of those kind of movies that you expect to have action and thrills and things like that. But when it draws you in this way, it's been done really well. Because it does, it's very compelling. I mean, Tom's going to make it, but really, come on now, that train is falling, and each car falls, and he's got to, survive each disaster. And this is an all-purpose sound job. So what I mean by that is, where it's no maestro, but where you have dialogue that needs to be replaced because of the stunts involved and the fact that maybe there's a lot of competing sounds that you don't want, and you have to go through and add sounds and add dialogue. So this is an all-purpose sound job, meaning that everything is up for grabs, and so you just do the best possible version of everything, and that's why it's a great job, because they did do the best possible everything. And so, high marks again.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said, and it sounds good. Even with everything replaced or fixed and adjusted.
Yeah, but
it's not
you
glaring.
don't. It doesn't. doesn't reveal itself to you.
Right.
It's very well crafted, and it deserves to be in this list. It's really good.
Yep.
The fourth film on our list. Did you want to say something else, Don? Before
Period. No, I just wanted to make sure
Period.
it was full stop.
Period.
that's my cue. The fourth film on our list is Oppenheimer. Nominated team is Willie Burton, Richard King, Gary A. Rizzo, and Kevin O'Connell.
The Oppenheimer, the bomb movie. No. Yeah, I mean, it's the parts that I wonder with, and I would love to talk to Willie about it, is how often did they use those IMAX cameras for dialogue and for close-ups? Because those things are
Noisy.
rock grinders. Yeah. I mean, it's not, there's no usable sound once those cameras are going unless they're deep in the background for big vista shots and things. But I couldn't tell watching the movie. I watched it specifically looking, going, wow, it's a beautiful frame, looks beautiful. Do I hear the camera? Do I hear, what's the trickery here? Don, you might know a little bit better fixing or, at least adjusting for camera noise.
I know that that's always a problem, and I know that the IMAX cameras are notorious, and I know that a lot of times we actually have to apply these new tools which weren't available just a few years ago. And it is like anything else. I mean, you go to a beach and there's waves that are completely, removing, just masking all clarity because the waves are there. And same with wind and, and cameras and dollies and all this kind of stuff. But I know I recently did a film where it sounded like it was recorded in an electronic storm, but we eliminated it all, absolutely all of it. So I can't tell if it's been treated in the ends and in the end result. I can't tell, and that's the key to it, because if you could tell, then they would distract from you. But
Right.
For all I know, they just wiped out the camera noise. It's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the use of sound was good in the movie. I mean, they have, just after they drop that, the first bomb and he's given that rally speech, I think they used it very effectively to put you inside of his mind. And yeah, I mean, the silences are very silent, which is a very powerful, I think, if you use it too much, it's too much, but I think they used it the right amount where it's just dead silent. It gives you that uneasy feeling.
Yeah. Well, I think this is probably the best thing the director has done, Chris Nolan. I think it's probably his most accessible film. I think the performances are really, really great. I think a couple of people in that film are going to be winning something. I'm not sure what, but they're going to be winning something. And it's just enough razzle dazzle to get you excited. I mean, the theater doesn't explode. It could. I was worried that when the big bomb went off, that all the seats were going to blow away. But don't put it past them. But it would seem to be under control, and it would seem to be just right. Just to leave you wanting a little more.
Yeah.
It just was very tastefully done, and I was very impressed with the whole thing. The dialogue, crystal clear. Sound effects that Richard did, it tickled your ears.
Yep.
And then we were all waiting for the big bomb, and that did not disappoint. I think it was very, very, I think what was more interesting is that you could have gone bombastic with this whole thing. It's an emotional topic, and they didn't go down that road. They went with the character of the people involved with it and their personalities, and that I think made it a much better option, a better film.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy that, because a lot of the Christopher Nolan movies have gotten, trashed over the years for one scene or another where, the cornfield, you can't hear the dialogue because the truck is driving through the cornfield, or or whatever it is. Christopher always tries to, it feels like he always tries to push where sound can and can't go, and, whether it succeeds or fails. But this one was, I thought, like Don said, one of the, the dialogue was crystal clear. Everything was, I mean, it was the right amount of everything. and I think that was a huge success on that post team. Richard King also.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge. Yeah, that guy. He's
Yeah.
good. That guy. He's got a future.
Yeah.
I just think it's also the director himself has. I think he may have had to have done all these other films to make this film, because this film shows a sort of restraint. I think that you don't have to prove anything. It's really a slow burn in some places, and it really, to me, is the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah, well said. Period.
And the fifth nominee is The Zone of Interest. And the sound team is Tarn Willers and Johnny Byrne.
What a family film, huh? Just a summer afternoon in Germany. What year did that take place?
43.
Oh shoot! No, we have problems. No, that movie. That's a story of two different worlds. One told, through the lens and the camera about a family, and then the other told through sound, creating this horrific, Auschwitz on the other side of the Garden Wall. I mean, it is not an easy watch. It is just, it's a bit of torture to watch it. I mean, it's because it's fantastic and they did a great job, but boy, it is not a happy-go-lucky movie. But I will say that what they were able to create, and I was able to talk to the effects editor a couple weeks ago, and they got a lot of the pain and torment and anguish outside of emergency rooms, in areas, as people are coming in and screaming and in pain. And I mean, that just must have been one hell of a emotional job to have to put together. Something that would definitely not, you probably don't come home in a great mood for months at a time.
I think this movie is a textbook example of how sound is essential in the telling of a story. What's very, very interesting is if we start out in the beginning of the movie and it's in black for the longest time. There's no sound. And it's almost like it's saying to the audience, settle down, just relax, get your hearing right? Warm up your ears, because and it slowly brings in this very disturbing music. I mean, talk about screaming instruments. I mean, these things are very, very disturbing. And that is very hard to take. And it's all in black. Your eyes are, it's like, don't listen, don't look, listen. And then it cuts to idyllic, beautiful countryside with birds and a happy family taking a swim in a summer afternoon. It's so happy and peaceful. All is forgiven. And you don't hear anything resembling what's going on across the fence for about 10 minutes. The first gunshot is 10 minutes later. And it's one single gunshot. And by that time, you're going like, wait a minute, you just told me everything is going to be okay. And that's subliminally disturbing. But then they move on. And then they do that to you through the whole film. It's amazing how sound can tell you multiple things at the same time. And you're watching something and your eyes aren't seeing it, but you're hearing it, and then you're wondering, why am I hearing this? What's going on? It takes the viewer and the listener a little while to really understand that this is what you're seeing is not real. None of what you see is real, and this is kind of the rare film where seeing is not believing. Sound is more important. I did a film early in my work history, where it was an apartment in New York, and I had the streets of New York and everything, all these people talking in New York and sirens and cars, and the mixer turned around and he goes like, who did this off-screen miniseries? And he said, like, I don't want to hear this. I'm in this apartment. I don't want to hear what's going on outside. Just it's all off screen. I don't need that. And I thought, oh wow, I got that completely wrong. So we reduced it all. Here is the exact opposite. I wish I had had this chance. What's off screen is the story.
Yes.
And the less you see and the more you hear, the more impactful it is. And it's clearly a masterful. You know, they did this film kind of like what you did. They had eight setups, 8 booms or something. And they told the actors just act, and they would, you know, don't play to the camera. And they walk off mic all the time. And they're completely away from any of the cameras and the mics and that. They're just over there. And you have to listen. You have to work to hear what they're saying. And you realize that what they're saying is not what's going on. It's just part of the way that the story is being revealed to you.
My jaw dropped when they were at the salesman was at the dinner table with the commander, and they're just talking about this machine and what the capacity is, the throughput per hour, and you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, I can't believe what they're talking about, are the horrific, ovens and chambers.
Yeah, how about the kid playing with teeth?
Yeah, kid playing with teeth, or they're swimming in the lake when the ash is coming down. I mean, it's just like, the whole thing is just, it's heart-wrenching and brutal, and they do such a job to show you this, family in this beautiful house and garden, and then the horrificness that is behind all of it.
Yeah, and here's an example of a film that's polar opposite to, say, the genre that Mission Impossible is in, where everything is crafted to be the best sound possible. This is not crafted to be the best sound possible. This is sort of lulls you into a sense of reality and makes you work to sort of pay attention to what's going on. And you're constantly being bombarded by the background, constantly being reminded that when this woman tries on her new fur and it's got somebody's lipstick in the pocket, that's not her coat.
Yeah.
So
and your imagination just runs wild. It's like, oh, here we go. Everybody gets to pick your own new outfit. It's like, oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Don. What is your understanding of when they go into like infrared, that black and white infrared, and the girl's putting out apples? And I didn't understand that part.
I didn't either, but I was wondering if it sort of happened when he was reading fairy tales or stories to the kids. So I was thinking that maybe that's a fairy tale. That that's how the girl is being viewed by some other force. Maybe it's the occupiers, that a girl that goes around putting apples in ditches for the workers and mushrooms or whatever that was she had the second time around. Maybe that's just futile. It's useless. I don't know. I wish someone would tell me.
Yeah, that was the only part that I was a little bit lost in, but I was hoping that it was just me, because sometimes I get lost easy.
Oh, I'm lost. I'm lost right now.
I had read that girl is one of the household servants who I'm not exactly sure either. I was a little lost.
Yeah, was she giving out food to the people on the other side of the wall?
Yeah.
Or?
No, she's leaving it for where the prisoners are on work detail so that they can find it when they come in the morning. It's sort of a undercurrent of what's going on, but why it was done that way. I didn't see this film when it was when I had screener access, and then it didn't get nominated for the DGA and they took it away. So I ended up seeing it in the theater, and there were not very many people in the theater. And so the sound was clear. Although there's that moment where you're sort of like, is Mission Impossible playing next door? Like you're hearing that sort of sound, and then you're like, wait a minute, no, that's the noise for this film. But I wonder now, we've said in past years that both of you have fantastic sound systems at home as well. Do you think this is a movie that will lose something in the screening, though, if people don't have the sound that, I don't know, the theatrical sound, or that's obviously such a huge part of this story?
I mean, I think all these movies lose something when you watch it at home. I mean, that's just kind of a given, but yeah, I mean, this movie particularly, if you have a decent enough sound system, I think it still will be chilling, and I think it still does the effect of two different stories being told at the same time. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just think that the ritual we had to go through in the beginning of it to get accustomed to the soundtrack, I think was there because it trains you to start listening. And I think that routine that you have to go through and that you eventually accomplish by getting into the very first idyllic countryside scene with birds and happiness, I think that serves a very real purpose of just indoctrinating you to start using your ears. And I think that I don't think there's going to be anybody talking through this film. I don't think anybody will.
No, I don't think so either.
Turn around and goes like, well, "That's a nice dress. Do you think she's got a nice dress?" I don't think anybody's going to do that.
That's a real fur coat. I don't know.
It's an example of a film that has information rather than stuff that tickles your ears. It doesn't really. It's not this cute, monsters or anything like that. It's just stuff that gets into your head.
And I will say, talking to the sound effects editor, he did mention that he had a very dark 6 months of life making this movie. It takes a toll on you. I think we all put in our our best and we put our all into it. And so depending on the subject matter, it can rub you even harder each time. So
are you talking about Indiana Jones again?
Yeah. So
I thought so.
The dialogue of destiny.
Maybe that's where we dovetail. So what other 2023 films did not make this list, but you want to call out achievement for sound?
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Color Purple. I mean, but I also did that one, so I don't know. That's
See, I have to look at the list. Let's see.
I mean, Flowers of the Killers.
Oh, sure.
It's beautiful.
Sure. And what struck me about that one was usually in movies at the very end they have the end credits, a crawl, and they have the theme song. They did have this song which has been nominated as best song from Flowers of the Killers of the Flower Moon, but they ducked out of it, and the last 5 minutes is rain and thunder. And it's a sound man's dream to have the movie run out with your sound effects playing it. And it just gave an entirely different feel to everything. And I thought that was really impressive. And I was hoping it would, get noticed, but it didn't, too bad. I also thought Barbie was pretty darn good.
I like Barbie. I thought they did a lot of interesting sound, Eileen. Yeah, she did a great job. The what was the other one? The Killer. That was all mostly voiceover, but there were some interesting moments of. I mean, there were some big fight sequences, big moments of sound that was just popping in and out, and it was an interesting mix for sure. Like everything wasn't just blended and smooth; it was like sharp cuts on picture.
You guys also had Ferrari on the short list, and I'm curious, with your guys' background, having done the Ford versus Ferrari and a lot of auto racing work, actually, how you thought they did with theirs.
Well, they had the same issue that we had, which was we had to get these classic cars and record them. So I know that challenge, but they seem to have found them, so that's good. I don't know, very much like my movie. So in many ways, some ways, in one way, it was a Ferrari.
They just needed some Ford in there. That's the problem.
They forgot. I thought Poor Thing sounded great. I also thought Perfect Days was overlooked. Anybody see Perfect Days?
I haven't seen Perfect Days. Which one?
I recommend it. It's really, it's really calming. It's very, very thoughtful.
Huh. I'll check that out.
Wim Wenders was hired to go do a photo essay on Japanese public bathrooms. And he said, "This is not a photo essay. This is a film." And they wrote a film about a guy who's a bathroom attendant. It's really great. And it's very calming.
Oh, that's cool.
Guys, on that note, we'll call it a wrap. Great having you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Listeners, I always appreciate your feedback. You'll find my contact info on our website, belowtheline1word.biz. That's B-I-Z. If you're interested in the Oscars, subscribe to the podcast. We've got at least 10 more episodes of Oscar coverage in the queue. Thanks to Curtis Five for our music and John Wan for our logo. The logo is available on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers at redbubble.com. To all of our listeners, I appreciate you. Please rate us wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line.
Nailed it.